Who the hell?
Somebody's beating.
A spear on Cena. Oh my God! Oh my God! R-Truth is here! R-Truth! R-Truth! Truth is back! Truth is back! We want truth! We want truth! We want truth! You got truth!
You can't handle the truth, John Cena!
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself
with Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about?
Yeah.
The world of professional wrestling. Do I have your attention now?
done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
Well, surprise, surprise, surprise. Wouldn't you know, the wrestling world's a better place once again. And it's better because you're here to talk about it with us. Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling, part of the Celebrate Wrestling Podcast Network. Tons of great content on there for you to check out anytime you want. Always for free. Always about pro wrestling. We don't do the Patreon. We don't make you pay to subscribe. We do this show on the radio. And then we sometimes do bonus content for you on the podcast feed, in addition to the regular shows that appear on the podcast feed as well. More on that in just a second, but we just appreciate you being here, spreading the love, giving your 5-star reviews, sharing, telling your friends about it, and most importantly, making sure you're subscribed, because that way you don't miss any of that content. You can find the links at CelebrateWrestling.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Just subscribe to Celebrate Wrestling and you will be on the feed. Some extra content came out this past week, and we'll talk more about those in the show as well. But we're hot off the heels of not one, but two WWE events this past Saturday. It was WWE and Mexico's AAA teaming up for Worlds Collide. And then across the street, just hours later, it was WWE's Money in the Bank with the some say shocking, some say not surprising, but everybody seems pretty happy about the returning Ron Killings. Yeah, not R-Truth anymore. Ron Killings is back. You heard the clip. You know we're excited about it here, and we're going to talk all about it. Was it a work? That's the big question. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And Dave Meltzer and I will go into why there's no possible way, despite what Triple H says, that it was, quote, part of the show. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a lot of respect for what they're doing in WWE these days. But H, that was not the answer. That was not the answer to give, and we'll talk about why coming up as well. Also, your feedback to WWE's Money in the Bank with the return of Yay Boo. Joe Aguinaldo is going to join me to go through that. And we got a lot to talk about. AEW doubling down on the 4-hour Dynamite format for now. We'll find out why that's happening, and some good and not so good coming out of that. Plus, their build to All In Texas, which is just over a month away. That show is looking more and more exciting for those that are heading to that stadium show. But of course, there's a lot to talk about in the week of wrestling. Each and every week we bring it to you. If you want to support the shows and what we're doing here, some news on the t-shirt situation. We've had a small snafu, nothing bad, just a new printer is coming into our friends at So Normal here in Lethbridge. So they've actually been upgrading their machine. So what we've decided to do, because we're a little behind on some of the anything above 2X orders right now, because we do print those special order, we're going to extend the sale another 2 weeks. So we're actually going to go till the end of June on this one. We might as well. What the hell? They're going well. I didn't mean that to rhyme as much as it did. But either way, if you want to get in on the t-shirts, you can go to CelebrateWrestling.com. But if you want to save some cash on both the shirt itself as well as shipping, make sure you're a member of the Celebrate Wrestling Podcast page, the Facebook page, and direct message me personally. I'll give you $5 off the list price for your shirts. We'll throw a free Celebrate Wrestling sticker in there for you. And for a limited time, still got some reduced postage thanks to some sale rates going on through the Postal Service. So that's pretty awesome. Anyway, CelebrateWrestling.com, or if you do want to offer a donation via PayPal, that helps pay the internet bills, pay for the equipment, pay for gas to get me to indie shows, whatever happens. But we love doing this for you. And again, it's not about the money. It's about the content. So without further ado, let's get into the content. We got a lot to talk about, kicked off by the 5 biggest stories of the week. I think you know what a lot of them are going to be about. It's the 5 count.
You want to hear the breaking news?
Let's go ahead and give you the spoiler alert edition of the WWE Money in the Bank results. Took place on Saturday night from the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, well, Bakersfield. But still, it's in the Los Angeles area here. So let's start off, of course, with the women's Money in the Bank. Naomi took home the briefcase in what many fans were happy to see happen.
Naomi close to the top of the ladder. Is this Naomi's moment? Naomi has the briefcase. Naomi has missed Money in the Bank.
Also on the show, we had a surprise match added from the Worlds Collide pay-per-view earlier in the afternoon, as Dominic Mysterio would defend his Intercontinental Championship against Octagon Jr.
Hey, Becky Lynch now. Becky Lynch. Hey, listen, wait a minute. From our point of view, I can see Becky at the tights.
Becky Lynch is your new Women's Intercontinental Champion after defeating Lyra Valkyria.
With no one standing in his way, Rollins for the second time in his career is Mr. Money in the Bank.
In what some were saying was no surprise, Seth Rollins is now Mr. Money in the Bank again. And in the main event, Cody Rhodes pinned John Cena in the tag team match between Cody and Jey Uso against John Cena and Logan Paul. But of course, the real story coming out of that match, and really out of this entire PLE, was the return of Ron Killings. Well, after it was revealed last week that Ron Killings, or R-Truth, was unable to come to a contract settlement with WWE, the fan movement was epic. There was a ton of We Want Truth chants. There was a ton of social posts about it. Wrestlers from the past, wrestlers from today, all coming together to talk about how much they loved R-Truth and how they couldn't believe the company had let him go. Well, fast forward to WWE's Money in the Bank on Saturday night, and lo and behold, Truth came back in a big way. Now, there are some interesting takes on R-Truth's return, including WWE announcer Kathy Kelly, who had this to say on the Money in the Bank post-show.
Tonight, R-Truth's return was not just a surprise, it was a reminder of why we all love this. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but I just want to say, and I speak for the entire WWE universe, I am so happy to see my favorite part of every WWE show back. So welcome back, Truth.
Now, this is where it gets interesting, and you get a tale of 2 answers here when it comes to Triple H speaking on the return of R-Truth as well. Jordan Mendoza from USA Today asked this question in the post-show press conference, in which Triple H gave a now seemingly dubious response.
Was he actually released or leaving the company? And if so, how much did fans play a role in it? Or was there something else that made you guys decide, like, you know what, we want this guy still here?
I love the question. You enjoying the show? Whole part of the show, man.
Now, a lot of fans not exactly thrilled with Triple H's response there, saying, oh yeah, no, it was all part of the show, which we'll talk about more with Dave Meltzer coming up in a few minutes here. But if you actually go back to that post-show, it was Cody Rhodes who, in an interview alongside of Jey Uso after their match, had this to say about the return of R-Truth, which may have been a lot more accurate as to what actually went down.
The truth is, you guys wanted truth. And it's always our job. Everybody up here, everybody over here, Triple H, Nick Khan, it's always our job to give you what you want. So thank you guys for letting us know. Thank you guys.
One more note coming out of WWE, as some lower viewership numbers for WWE's Monday Night Raw have been coming out over the last few weeks. They're looking to continue the momentum with the return of R-Truth and Money in the Bank with a big Raw slated for Monday night. June 9th, we'll see the return of Nikki Bella. Now, it's been seen for a while online that she's been training for some sort of big return. Also, main event Jey Uso defends his world championship in a rematch against Gunther, John Cena, Seth Rollins, plus the return of WWE's King and Queen of the Ring sees the tournament kick off, all happening this Monday night. While WWE looks to cram all that into their 2 to 2.5 hour Monday Night Raw broadcast, AEW giving themselves tons of breathing room once again with another 4-hour edition of Dynamite, this time called the Summer Blockbuster. And one of the matches to look forward to is Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland 2. Also set for the Summer Blockbuster card, a trios match between the Hurt Syndicate of Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MJF taking on Commander, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight. Kyle Fletcher will face Anthony Bowens, and Timeless Tony Storm will have a match with Julia Hart. Newcomer Tekla will face Queen Aminata, and Tay Mello and Anna Jay will face Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, among others. And after a few weeks of speculation and the announcement that WWE was not going to be having WrestleMania 42 in New Orleans, the announcement was made official during the Money in the Bank broadcast that they are once again returning to Sin City. And in the post-show presser, Triple H had this to say about the move.
Vegas, the entertainment capital, right? Like, and to be able to go back in there, it's built for stuff like what we do. And to be able to go there a second time, the things that we learned this time, and how we handled the week there and everything else, this one will be even better. So it's a great opportunity for us to go in there in a place that, you know, people loved going to last year, will love going to again. You know, and we love New Orleans, and we love our partnership with them. We were able to grow that partnership with them along through this process as well. So I think it's a win for everybody.
Tickets and travel packages are expected to be announced soon for that one. Coming up next, Dave Meltzer joins us from the Wrestling Observer. We're going to dive all into what happened at Money in the Bank, as well as talk a little bit about AEW's plans coming closer to All In Texas, and a lot more, plus your feedback with another edition of Yay Boo to Money in the Bank, all on the way.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
The alternate commentary table, ACT, brought to you by the Celebrate Wrestling podcast feed. Listen, it's Mitch, it's Dimitri. We got this little pod thing that we do every single week where we talk about the week in wrestling and the way in which we do it from the other side of the railing. Right, Mitch?
I like that.
We're coming at it because we love it. We hate it. The alternate commentary table, ACT. Download it anywhere where you're getting your podcasts. Sure.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, Dave, it's all part of the show, man. Enjoy the show. Remember tampering with people's futures and ending employment contracts? This is part of the show, brother.
It was pretty weird. I don't know. I think that Levesque under pressures. I think pressure's getting to Levesque in a lot of ways. You know, it's funny because their business is really good, but you know, even though business is, and that's always like the reaction when you when you're running a company and your business is good and everyone says it's bad, it's terrible, your storylines are bad and all this, and you're going, but it's great. And then you start getting a couple of weeks of bad ratings, but your business is still great. And then it just piles on because, over the last week or two, I've gotten so many people going like, is the boom over? Is the boom over? And I go, the boom's over when they stop selling tickets at these high prices, and it's still there. But I do have to acknowledge that ratings are down. But most of it, it's NBA playoff season. That happens here every single year. The change from, USA to Netflix, as far as short term, in the United States has, and probably in Canada too, has been a bad one as far as total viewership, but business is good. It's like, that's not the end of the world. SmackDown had one bad rating last Friday, which really, without any NBA or NHL, and with Cody Rhodes' return and with Cena on the show. So that was one where it's okay. There's no excuses. The rating actually is down. It was the third lowest since they've been on USA. And the other two were against giant competition. This was against no competition. This is the worst rating that they've had, coupled with the fact that it actually was, Cena's on the show and Cody's return. So that's all of a sudden bad. But I always say, like, you don't overreact to one rating. But people looked at that have been waiting to say, because of WrestleMania, the WrestleMania creative wasn't the best in some ways.
Right.
And now we're a couple of months out, and, the interest in the last pay-per-view wasn't that much. We'll see how last night's was. But yeah, he just feels like when I just saw him, that and the AEW stuff too. It's like they're just like, just trying to counter program. And it's like, this isn't even in your best interest and it doesn't even hurt them. What are you doing? Let AEW should be the one obsessed with WWE because WWE is so much bigger. And it's the opposite. And it's just like, there's a lot of weirdness, and obviously nobody expected when they cut R-Truth that it would be this giant thing. So they brought him back. And then I have people in the company, and this also was my first reaction. I saw it and it's okay, cool, nice. They rehired him. That's good. Then like later that night, I started thinking everyone's talking about how they rehired him. And you know what no one's talking about? Seth Rollins won Money in the Bank, which is supposed to be a big deal. And especially Cody Rhodes pin Cena. That was the whole basis of that show last night is Cody Rhodes pin Cena to set up the big rematch. And no one's talking about it. It's like you're bringing him back so quick overshadowed your story you're trying to tell. So it's
to be fair, there was a lot of fan perception though that it was overshadowing everything already throughout the week. Like, I mean, the We Want Truth stuff was going on, and
no, you're right, and it's weird because obviously they've cut, when I say over 100 people over the years, over recent years, they have, and there've been a few that have gotten. You just never know if you've gotten some reaction. I mean, I remember the last one I remember was, Tony Khan, and the reaction was nothing compared to this, but Tony Khan got rid of Anthony Henry, if you remember. And then a week later, he rehired him because people were going, why do you get rid of Anthony Henry? He always works hard. And then Tony's like, all right, I'll bring him back. Years ago with Vince, he got rid of the Blue Meanie, and there was a pretty big thing. So Vince brought him back, and then fired him 3 months later, and there was no reaction the second time. I think they were not expecting it. They fire people all the time, people who are much higher on the card than R-Truth was at the time.
Well, with WWE, you can even go back to guys like Danielson, right? When he was in the Nexus and they had the whole necktie thing. And they probably knew they were going to bring him back, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that were shocked and aghast at that. At the same time, nobody's going like, hey, we want Carlito.
But it wasn't this reaction.
No.
They got rid of Bray Wyatt, and there absolutely was a reaction, but like nothing compared. It's not like people were chanting, we want Bray Wyatt at all the shows.
Yeah.
They were chanting, we want R-Truth on the TNA show on Friday night. That's how they were chanting it at the AAA show. You know what I mean? Not knowing that he was going to be back later that night. Yeah. So it really was like it overshadowed everything already. You're right. It showed that, fans have a lot of input into this business, a lot more than sometimes they realize. And this was one of those examples. They did. The fans 100% got him his job back.
Well, R-Truth tweeted just recently saying that, the We Want Truth voices were heard, and how thankful he was to all his fans, obviously, for doing what they did here. There's still going to be those people. There's still people that say this about the screw job. That it was all the work, brother. It was all the work.
People always say, especially the ones really inside, because that's like a part of wrestling that they relish. Is the idea that we worked everyone, we hid it from the boys and blah blah blah. And it's really that was like a 90s thing, and it really, if you really look back on it, all it did was cause distrust in the locker rooms.
This is exactly where I wanted to go.
Look, I was in the middle of the Pillman thing. He was a really close friend of mine. I was one of the few people who knew what was going on. And not right away, but as soon as I started worrying about it, basically, it was because he actually went totally silent with me, because Kim Wood, who's the architect of the whole Pillman thing,
You're talking about the WCW departure back in the day, right?
Right. All of a sudden, after a while, it's just like, oh my God, I was kind of like, this thing's kind of getting out of control. And I was like, not sure what wasn't real. And Kim Wood just goes, all work, explained the whole thing to me. Brian explained the whole thing to me. And Kim said, the deal that we had that I told Brian is that you work everyone, you lie to everyone. And he goes, what about Dave? He goes, you do not talk to Dave because you do not lie to Dave, but you do not talk to him. And Kim was actually the one who told me, Brian didn't. But then after that, like, I was in the loop on it. But the whole thing is like, it's very romanticized and everything. And it was fun for its time. I thought it was an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. But in the end, aside from the fact that, Brian got a little bidding war going by working Bischoff, and everyone talks about it, as far as like a big thing business wise, all it caused was everything from that point on in WCW. Once the boys figured out that it was all work, they trusted nothing. And when, your boss tells you something and you trust nothing, it made for a really bad atmosphere, because then the other part is that Bischoff kept trying to do it over and over again, and everyone knew, you know what I mean? And then you had the Hogan bash at the beach thing that you remember, and all of these things where we're going to work all the boys. Mm-hmm. And it's just and then it just was like the boys, when you were telling them the truth, they wouldn't believe it anymore. And it just made for a basic mess of that promotion.
Well, and the one thing about the corporate environment these days, and I got this sense from TKO and WWE as of late, is that they've tried to kind of clean up a lot of that, we'll say, bad behavior when it comes to exactly that. You're treating your contracted wrestlers now as part of the group. And there is a lot of very genuine emotion coming from a lot of the wrestlers. R-Truth himself has said, no, it was a legit release. His son has come out and said it was a legit release. They weren't going to renew the deal. So
I think everyone knows that they weren't going to renew the deal. And people, they have to listen to the fans, because it's like, you don't want to put, it's like, are you going to go play the game of, we'll ride it out? Well, what if, like with Punk, riding it out took 10 years. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? And it wasn't until he went back to AEW where the "We Want Punk" chant stopped. So it's like, I don't know that this would have gone 10 years, but it's like, it's not like you just sit there and go, well, they'll go away in 2 weeks. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. His contract was significant, because everyone's is.
Right.
But it's not like, to them, it's like pennies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like $1 million is pennies. It's when you're a $1 billion company, and they're taking in their whole company. I mean, just WWE and UFC together is $3 billion, and they're bigger than that. They've got many other companies. So it's like nothing. And it's just like, we'll just bring him back. And it's good. I mean, I'm glad for him. I'm glad for the talent. A lot of talent really liked him and went to bat for him. It's not, the fans went to bat for him, but the talent did too.
Well, and that's just it. I think in an era now, and we saw this especially with AEW coming in, and then WWE kind of followed suit here. It was a lot of give the fans what they want, to the point of over-delivering in some cases, where it does cause burn and exhaustion, because if you give them everything they want all the time, we're seeing what happens. We've seen it happen in AEW. We're seeing it happen in WWE right now. Eventually, there's no more birthdays. You know what I mean? Like, there's no more surprises you can give. So for Triple H to come out and say, hey, are you enjoying the show? All part of the show. Yeah, maybe in the last couple days it was part of the show here, but there's no way that they're going to use someone's actual release, especially when they're releasing dozens of other people. Yeah, exactly. They're releasing tons of people that why would you do that? That's not conducive with what they're doing as a corporation, as a company. You know what? We had to let you go. I'm sorry that happened. Thank you very much. See you later. Best in your future endeavors. Bye-bye. But like you said, the response in this is so strong. The response from the locker room was so strong. The response from former employees, people that host podcasts and radio shows and stuff like this, the Mark Henrys of the world, the Bubba Dudleys of the world, and all these other guys and girls, right, who are all coming out and saying the same thing, like, how can you get rid of R-Truth? It's nothing but bad PR that WWE in a down creative state doesn't need. PR. Yeah, they don't need that. So what a Hail Mary play here, and what a great one. Let's bring them back. Hey, we're the good guys after all. But there's no way you can convince me ever in my mind that this was a work.
No, it wasn't a work.
Never.
I mean, I like when it happened, I go, the moment it happened, it's kind of like, it's probably not a work, but you don't know. You know what I mean? And then, I started hearing basically all the talent. It was not a work. But again, it's like, well, what if it's just a couple of people close to the vest and all that? But, when it comes to that, well, number one, his son and himself, they're pretty good sources, but also when it comes to people close to the vest, they told me like right out, and it's just like not a work.
They would have done it on air if it was a work. They would have mentioned it on air somehow.
Yeah.
They would have. They had to. Okay, you're listening to McGuire on Wrestling. We're talking to Dave Meltzer from Wrestling Observer about R-Truth's return at Money in the Bank on Saturday night. There was also the Saturday AAA show, which I want to talk to you about as well, Dave. But just to put a pin on this R-Truth thing moving forward here, he is now back as Ron Killings.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Maybe this is part of the deal. Maybe this is a chance to see him have an afterlife on the Indies. Maybe it's like, hey, we'll give you another year here. Let's make it a big deal. Ron Killings is now a thing, but this isn't R-Truth being silly either. He came out, he was serious. He smoked Cena with the belt and ran. There wasn't no dancing. There was no what's up. It was a very, very different portrayal of Ron Killings. So where do we go moving forward with this?
Look, you almost have to continue the program with him and Cena, which is interesting. And then maybe the thing is maybe they're perceiving now that he's so hot that he'll mean more against Cena than somebody else will. And so, not only did he get his job back, but he has to work with Cena again after that finish, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that the Ron Killings thing, and I haven't asked about that, but my gut on the Ron Killings thing is you're not going to be here forever. And the thing is like R-Truth, he can't take R-Truth with him. He can take Ron Killings with him, when he goes on Indies, and he's going to get whatever it is, a year, 2, 3 of Ron Killings, and the R-Truth character will be a memory, but he will be more famous as Ron Killings because that's his current name. So it's a benefit to him on his send-off. I thought when I saw the marketing of him as Ron Killings, it's like, I thought, maybe he went in there when they said, we want to bring you back, and just goes, yeah, of course I'll come back, but I want this. And maybe they just said, okay, you can have it. Because for him, that's why, because I don't see why they would do that. That seems like something that he would want and benefits him greatly. And he was able to get it. So good for him.
I think that the second Ron Killings became an iteration once again was actually in that post PLE press conference where Cena put him through the table and he called him Ron. Right. Yeah. A lot of people even forgot that, oh yeah, he's Ron Killings, Yeah. So then we had that, and then the whole Ron Cena thing with the Saturday night's main event. It is a perfect storm, but I think it was a perfect storm by accident. So moving forward, we'll see what happens with Ron Killings, R-Truth, and WWE. But Dave, there was another PLE on Saturday as well with WWE and AAA coming together for the Worlds Collide show. I got to watch the first half of it live, and then I caught up with it afterwards because I had an indie show on Saturday night as well. But there was a lot of great things showcased for AAA on this show. For the new fan that's not familiar, what were your thoughts coming out of it, though?
I thought it was a very entertaining show. I thought that like a lot of the stuff, I think they did a really good job as far as like trying to get you into CMLL. They showcased the best they could. They brought all the wrestlers in, I believe, to Orlando on Thursday, so they would have a couple of days to work out their match. So they, because they'd never worked before, and it's different style and everything. Mm-hmm. And so, as far as the women's tag wasn't much, but the other matches were all very good, really, really good. And I thought Corey Graves did a great job. My only negative was that on a show where you're trying to showcase AAA, I don't know about going out there and going like there's like a rivalry and who won what, and then have AAA lose. And then the one I really didn't understand, and I saw as like no purpose at all, is that Dom Octagon Jr. match. Not that like it was cool. I like that, when they did the angle, where they got into it and Dom says, I'm going to defend the title against you on the pay-per-view night. I thought, this is really cool. But then to go out there and do a 4.5-minute match and Octagon just get beat so like that, it was almost like, why did you do that? You didn't even make him competitive. You didn't even make it like a real match. It's like, what was the purpose of it? And, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the one question I have. And then, people are going to me like, well, they made sure that you knew that AAA is the minor league. And it's like, well, yeah, but obviously they did, but you own it now. You know what I mean? You own it. That's not how I would do it. But it was so that was my qualm. But I think as a show itself, for 2.5 hours, that was pretty damn good. It reminded me of the original When Worlds Collide and produced much better. I wouldn't say the wrestling was better, but it was produced better. And then guys, the guys in the matches, they all had their A games and they knew it. That Dragon Lee was a lot better than the Dragon Lee that we've seen in WWE. Mm-hmm. That Ray Phoenix was better than the WWE version of Ray Phoenix. So those guys, they let those guys go and they came through.
Just remind me, because my lucha experience is limited seeing it live, obviously, but AAA, do they not subscribe to the standard 2 out of 3 falls rule? That
they stopped that years and years ago.
Okay.
CMLL still does 2 out of 3 fall trios matches, but they're moving on. 2 out of 3 in AAA has been very, very rare for as long as I can remember, decades probably.
I thought the pairing of commentary between Corey Graves and Conan was actually a pretty good pairing for 2 guys who I don't think have ever worked together before in that role.
Never, no.
No, I thought, Conan did a pretty good job of trying to explain within Conan's realm of how this works for the rest of North America and really the rest of the world's fans out there watching on YouTube. But overall, I think it was a great showcase. They could definitely tell they got something with Mr. Iguana. Which,
he got a really big pop. Who reminded me of was Orange Cassidy.
That's what I was thinking too. This is an iguana Orange Cassidy.
As soon as you start doing that stuff, it's just like, well, this is Orange Cassidy, who, as I recall, many people thought like this guy will never work on national TV. And in Mexico, there's a lot of people. Well, Iguana's not a good wrestler, and it's just this gimmick that would never work in the United States. And the funny part is because everyone else is the same doing all the flying. It's the stuff that is not the same that gets you over. And he can be a cult favorite, and they can sell a lot of little iguana pets. And I think they got something in him.
All right. Well, you know what? We will break down some more of your feedback out there to Money in the Bank with our Yay Boo segment coming up, as well as talk more about AAA. Dave Meltzer joining us from the Wrestling Observer and WrestlingObserver.com. Coming up, we're going to talk about AEW, the build to All In Texas, and a lot more.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
CKXUFM 88.3 in Lethbridge is Southern Alberta's true alternative radio station.
The cream of the crop! Nobody does it better.
Proudly carrying McGuire on Wrestling every week.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something different to listen to,
this is gonna be a slobber knocker!
Check out our NCRA award-winning lineup of programs or stream us anytime at ckxu.com.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
We're back with Dave Meltzer. Just did an in-depth review about what a brilliant work R-Truth's return was to WWE. Boy, that AAA, he's a genius, man. Nailed it. Just nailed. Okay, let's talk about AEW. They had a 4-hour Fighter Fest this past Wednesday here. Now, I'm hearing stories. The reason this happened is because they're trying to find a new place to put Collision. Is that true?
It was an experiment, but it basically happened because, like on Saturday, they had other sports and they don't want to go head to head with a WWE pay-per-view. So usually they've moved it to, another night. It could be, they've been doing Thursdays, but for whatever reason, they decided we'll just go on Wednesday, and they're doing that this week too. I thought the show was good, but 4 hours is too much for TV. That's just, 3 hours is too much. I think 2 is the right number. I can handle the 2.5 that Raw is. SmackDown drags for me every week. And that's 3, 4, you can have all kinds of good matches, and they did, but 4 hours was too long. That was my thought. And I think that was the consensus. So there you go. And they're doing it again Wednesday.
Yeah, well, that's just it too. Saturday night clearly isn't working for Collision as far as running against other shows. They've had to move Collision so many times now. Anyways, what is the solution for this?
I think Thursday is the solution, honestly.
So we're going to go back-to-back days, kind of like what Raw and SmackDown did for a bit there.
Yeah, I think so, because Thursday had always been NBA day, and that's why they would never go for Thursday. And they don't have NBA anymore, so I just think Thursday makes the most sense. You don't have to move it every once a month for WWE. You don't have to move it when you've got a big sport on Saturday. I think in a perfect world is WBD signs UFC, which takes care of all their Saturdays, and which is not a long shot. They're in the game, and there's many people who want that UFC, but they get UFC on Saturday, which forces the move, and Thursday's the night, and that way, it's better, because if you want to go live on Thursday, everyone's in town from Wednesday. They're not going home and then back on a Saturday, which is, harder travel. And, it also enables you to just have guys on Collision, a better quality of guys on Collision because they're already in town, rather than like the idea of like, well, we'll use Collision to showcase the B side, and then it's a weaker show. You don't need it to be a weaker show. So that's my idea of the perfect thing is Collision on Thursdays.
Does WBD have like Amazon money though? If Amazon wanted to take a run at that UFC,
and they don't, so that's why or Netflix money, because Netflix is in the game, Amazon's in the game.
We're
ESPN,
seeing even Hulu and Roku stepping up lately. Like all these different streaming services are now doing what they can to try and get people. Paramount Plus, even I doubt they would get into it because they have enough entertainment content. But
yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Okay, well, we've seen some more build going into AEW's All In Texas, which, of course, is still about a month and change away here. But we're really starting to see some builds here. Moxley versus Hangman, Tony Storm versus Mercedes Moné, and, of course, Omega Okada are the matches, obviously, people are looking most forward to, the ones that have been announced here. Which one of these three do you think goes for the headline spot? They're calling Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné the greatest women's match of all time, potentially.
Are they calling it that? I sort of recommended that a couple weeks ago to bill it not as the greatest women's match of all time, but the biggest women's match in AEW history, because I think it is.
Yeah.
But a main event to me is got to be Moxley and Page, because it's your world title. I think that you should have the world title change. I just feel that it, I'm not a one who goes, the world title has to go on last. And if they have some ridiculous match with, I wouldn't want to put it on before them, because the last thing you want is that match to struggle. But to me, it should be the final scene in my mind should be Adam Page and Will Ospreay celebrating, and all the baby faces celebrating in the ring, and maybe Swerve even, who knows, at the end. But that's to me the climax of that show in my mind.
Do you think we have any surprises coming, or is AEW using this time, this length in between properly to slowly release matches? Should they be releasing more matches on the card, do you think, and letting them build?
I think we'll get a couple every week. I think that the gist of the card should be released 3 weeks out, which would be, a couple weeks from now. I think they're fine with what they are. I don't think that it needs to be. I mean, it'd be bad if it was all in the last 2 weeks for a show this big. Mm-hmm. But I think that they've got the top. These are probably the top three. I figure we're going to get one or two more this week, and then I think that they're on track. I think it's fine. I mean, as far as like we'll have a better idea in a week. If it comes to this point where, because there's a lot on the card, and I don't see all of it, and I think even if it's not announced, I should see the building and the formation of all the key stuff, and that I haven't seen yet. But maybe this week we'll get like one or two new announcements and maybe two or three others where we kind of know where they're going, and at that point, that's most of the card.
What do you see the showtime for this being? It's all in a month and change away.
I mean.
And are you concerned? Because I'm picturing 5 to 6 hours here.
But here's the thing: it's afternoon, it's not evening. That makes a big difference,
right?
You know what I mean? Like if you go 3 to 8:30, it's 5.5 hours, and it's too long. But it's the biggest show of the year, so I think. But you're done at 8:30, so you know what I mean. It's not like you're done at 11:30 or midnight, like they usually are. And it's not like, oh my God, it's Sunday and you got to work the next day and they're keeping the show going till 12:30. They're going to keep it going to 8:30. So I don't think that that's bad. So my gut is that this one they can get away with going longer, and it is their biggest show of the year. So they probably should go longer. And also, and this is a very minor part of it, I think that because the nature of the pay-per-view is people are going to buy it early. I think that it's not like if you're going to buy the pay-per-view, you're not buying it because Saturday Night's Main Event is going on at the same time, or the Great American Bash is going on. Saturday Night Main Event is going a little later, and the Great American Bash is going the same day. So it's like you're going against Great American Bash. I think that was ill-advised by WWE, but time will tell. Maybe it'll work. But it didn't seem to hurt Double or Nothing, so I would say it's probably ill-advised. But I would just go like, look, you're counter-programming us. we'll just counter program the first 30 minutes of Saturday night's main event. And it's like, it ain't going to make a big difference. You know, it's pay-per-view versus TV, but just to show, you know, that, you know, it can go back. I mean, it's not like a big thing.
Well, Saturday night's main event, though, is TV in a very, very small market. Everywhere else in the world, it's going to be streaming on YouTube. So,
yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. Like, going back to what we talked about this last week, too, right? It's like, it really doesn't make sense in the streaming world to run counter programming against live pay-per-view unless a certain amount of your fan base you found really cares about that live result. Really cares.
I don't think Bash will hurt it. Saturday night's main event, if they went head-to-head with Saturday night's main event for free, I think that would have hurt AEW a significant amount, which is why they moved to the afternoon. I think the afternoon ends up being a blessing because they've done 2 afternoon pay-per-views, which were the other 2 all-ins because they were from London. And those were 2 of the biggest pay-per-view buys in the history of the company, you know. So it's been proven that AEW fans will watch a big show in the afternoon. So it's fine. I think WWE putting Saturday night's main event to hurt them on Saturday night was a blessing because now they can do the long show and they don't have to skim, you know, like rush people in some of the matches. They can have them do that. And it's not so late anymore. So you know, I mean, it's weird how these things work out.
Well, that's definitely it. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Always a pleasure catching up to you. What a surprisingly news-filled weekend we had here after all from one guy's return. Oh, by the way, Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu are now feuding. Seth Rollins is Money in the Bank and Naomi is Money in the Bank. And
and they were all overshadowed.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, you know, the other one is just like, I mean, nobody talked about the Jacob Fatu Solo Sikoa, and they've been building that up for months.
That's a giant deal. That's a giant deal.
It's a big deal. I was really surprised they did it on this show, though, because I thought that this is like, I thought this was like 3 months away. I thought that like they're going to build for SummerSlam and they'll pull the trigger, you know, in like second week of July. And so it's like, I was really surprised that they did it here. And in hindsight, I'm even more surprised because they did it. Like if you did it on a TV show on Friday night with a bigger audience watching, and it'd be the focal point, and then people talk about it all weekend. And now you did it, and you know people aren't talking about it. Not that it's a bad deal. Solo's going to be super. I mean, Jacob's going to be super over as a babyface either way. So it's not like these are minor quibbles. But yeah, when I look at it, it's like, you know, I would want to turn it where it's the focal point in this Jacob Fatu turn. Because I think Jacob Fatu, you know, they had their list of their, whatever the number is, 10 really superstars with Punk and Orton and those guys, right?
Yeah.
And I think Jacob is of all the guys, I think he's the one who can make it 11, if you know what I'm saying.
He's transcending a lot of people right now. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that like LA Knight could make it to that level. I don't think that anyone like of all the guys that are underneath, Braun Breaker someday, yeah, and he probably will, but not this year. But Jacob Fatu, to me, just the reaction and everything that I feel for him in the sense of he can be the next one of those guys, and he can, you know, go for championships and be a big time babyface. And they see it too, because that's why they made the thing. He's been a big success for them.
Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. Dave, before we go, what are some things people can read about in the latest issue?
Well, you know, I wrote this story that's out of date about the reaction to Ron Killing everyone in the WWE locker room. So that was like the deep story. But I did talk about Carlito and some of the other stuff, and then, you know, the build to this pay-per-view and that, and just a lot on, you know, is the, where are we as far as has WWE hit the peak? Are they down from the peak? You know, and what does that mean? And, you know, like, it's funny because I think that they are down a little from the peak, but people are missing the point that even down a little from that peak is really freaking good. Like, business is great there. And I think people are like really wanting to be the first to jump on board and go, it's on the way down. And it's like, you know, they had two shows yesterday and they both did over 10,000 people. They're not on the way down.
And
they're not down. There's no danger is what I'm saying.
And we're entering the summer lull. Every year in wrestling has the summer lull anyways, because people go out and do other things. But overall, I think it's going to be great. So, Dave, appreciate you. Look forward to reading that completely pointless story now. And We'll talk to you again next week, sir. Thank you.
Okay, have a great week.
This is McGuire on Wrestling.
Legends and Champions is your weekly fix to go old school, looking at the classic world of professional wrestling. From Hulk Hogan to the Hitman Bret Hart to the Icon Sting to the total package Lex Luger. We have it all each and every week on Legends and Champions, part of the Celebrate Wrestling Network. And it's available on a Wednesday with me, Andy Evans. See you there.
Yay, boo, it's lots of fun to do. If you like it, holla yay. If you don't, you holla boo.
Welcome back to McGuire on Wrestling.
Yes, after major events in pro wrestling, we like to bring your feedback in. And while there were 2 big PLEs, we don't have that long of a show. So we're going to stick to WWE's Money in the Bank. Did you watch any of the AAA show, though, Joe?
I did not. No.
Okay, I did. I got to say, what I saw, I loved. I'm going to go back and watch the rest of it as the day goes on here. But right now, we're talking all about WWE's Money in the Bank 2025, the Yay Boo, on your feedback. However, before we get to that, Joe, very short answer, very quick question. R-Truth's return or Ron Killing's return, work or not a work?
I don't care. I'm just entertained, and that's the way I'm looking at it.
All right, that's fair enough. Thanks for not answering the question. Okay. We get to your feedback on WWE's Money in the Bank 2025. Now, Dave and I did talk about this, how the R-Truth story has literally overshadowed everything that happened on that card. Do you think that's fair?
You know what? Yeah. I mean, like, forget R-Truth. Just look at past wrestling events. There have been events that have been, really good or really bad. And one big thing happens, and that's the talk of the town. And that's right. Pro wrestling, right? So, I understand where you're coming from, but this would not be the first time an event or like one part of a show was the talk of the entire show.
Well, and the thing about it, too, is that you're only as strong as your finish. Every match, they'll always say that. The match is only as good as the finish.
Yep.
And that's kind of what it is for an event, too. You can have a great moment in a PLE or a card or even an indie show, right? Like, it doesn't matter. But it's when you have what finishes the show off, that's what people are going to leave remembering. So in this case, unfortunately, for some of the performers, it did overshadow a lot of stories that happened in this PLE, but let's get down to it. Joe, we're going to start with one of our very own here in the alternate commentary tables, Mitch Honsius. Mitch says, really boo.
Wow.
Because like to see the return of R-Truth, as well he should, since he may or may not have been directly responsible for him getting fired in the first place. Nice twist, but not enough to make this a good PLE.
I'm actually going to jump in with Math Baker's feedback because it actually... I agree with what he says here. Okay. So he says, it was okay, so I'll go yay.
Stop. Not allowed. Yabe? What the hell is yabe?
I'm going to assume that that's a typo.
No, it's not. It's not.
Right.
He's trying to go down the middle here.
Oh, okay. Then you know what? Given the rules that we have implemented for yay boo.
Exactly.
Sorry, Math. We're going to have to go with a boo on this because you can only be one or the other. And when in doubt, it's a boo. So I'm going with a boo.
Exactly.
However,
if you put a button in it, there's a boo.
Yeah. However, I do agree with his comment here where he says far too many people concerned if Ron WWE was working us. Doesn't matter. If it was a work, brilliant. And if it wasn't, WWE listened and did a U-turn. And I 100% agree with that. And that's sort of why I said I don't really care if it's a work or not. Right. Because at the end of the day, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And I don't want to look at it as a quote unquote insider or a wrestling, smart fan. I just want to be entertained. And that's why.
Why are you on this show?
Call me
This is all we do here.
Call me the anti-Dave Meltzer.
That's fair. All right. Well, you both work out, so there's that. Right. Let's go with Justin here, who says, absolutely yay. Great matches, wonderful results, great return, and surprise. But you know what? Late coming yay boo here from our own Andy Evans, who says, I'm all for the yay. Thought the whole thing was excellent. Women's Money in the Bank was everything we wanted it to be. And I'm glad Naomi went. Man, were people loving Naomi winning that thing.
Big time. I'm 100% on board with that.
Becky and Lyra was outstanding, or Lyra, sorry. I'm picking up the Mitch Honsiuses here. You listen to him give the names, and you're sometimes guessing who he's talking about here. But anyway, Becky and Lyra was outstanding. They've made Lyra into a star. I don't know. They're trying to.
Yeah.
Dirty Dom shows why he's the future of the division. Dave was not fond of Octagon Jr. losing that quickly, by the way. Men's Money in the Bank was obvious. Knew it was going to be Rollins, but the turn from Fatu to Sikoa was worth watching. And then the only letdown was the tag main event. But then again, seeing Ron Killings back made it. Yeah. That's where we're at.
Randy Osga says, yay, fun show. Women's match was great. He was surprised at the Naomi win, though, and he said that Lyra versus Becky was an awesome match.
Lyra. See, you're catching the Mitches, too. Got a bad case of the Mitches.
Oh, my God. No comment. All right. And I'll just say that he thought that the men's ladder match was fun and had some good moments.
I smell a t-shirt. All right. Our friend Vinny B says both Money in the Bank were better than anything on either day of WrestleMania. Oh, fair enough. Stephanie Vicaire is a star. Dom match was a nice little filler. I feel like Becky has lost a step this go around. Not sure what it is, but Lyra is missing something. I didn't watch her entrance. Did she come out with the arm wings again?
Yes, she did. Because when she came out, I was like, "Where are her hands?"
Yeah, that's what she's missing. Hands. Main event told a great story. The Logan Paul drone stuff was a wrestling first, which doesn't happen often these days. And Ron R-Truth Killings is back, baby. Aside from the ladder and table ads, it's a big old yay for sweet Vinny B. I love it.
Nice.
Mary watched this. Wow. Says, Mary, my birth mom, for those that don't know. I guess she's got the Netflix, so there you go. It says, boo, I wanted Rhea Ripley to win. I'm totally over Dom. Have been for some time now. That's what he wants.
Yep. Robbie Kemp, I'll keep it simple, says yay.
Dom's not for everyone, but he's definitely for Goldberg. Okay, Michael Parker says yay despite the plodding final match, only made better by Ron Killings' return.
And we got our pal Blaine. He went with a boo here. He did write a bit of a novel, but he said that he felt that this was a transitional show and that the match quality was boring, aside from the Fatu and Truth returning. So.
He does say in his comments, and I want to give this some credence here, is one of the big 5 PLEs. Is Money in the Bank one of the big ones now? Okay, let's go through it. So you got Rumble. Okay.
Mania.
SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
Well, those are traditionally always
the big four,
right? But I mean, you know what? If I had to pick a next one, I think Money in the Bank would be it because they put so much credence. Like, look at all the numbers that they were throwing out yesterday. Like, you know, how it was like, you know, what was it? 76% of all Money in the Bank winners have cashed in, and there was like 400, you know what I mean? So I could kind of see where he's coming from, but again, it would be a distant fifth if I had to put that somewhere.
On that note, though, 100% of women have cashed in and succeeded. Does this mean we're going to have a loss with Naomi?
I hope not. I want to see Naomi get her flowers.
Okay. He says, I'm honestly over the whole Money in the Bank concept. It hasn't produced a star in 10 years. I don't know if I agree with that, but he says, I feel like most people are interested in the spontaneous cash in rather than the actual person holding the briefcase. You know, there was a lot of argument for that with Priest, right?
Yeah.
Where Senior Money in the Bank was a thing, but once he cashed in, was champion, it was like, yeah, okay. You know?
Yeah, that's true. I will say, though, because I did originally give this a boo, I do actually change my vote. There were enough moments in this where I was like, you know what, it was good. And I think the reason I initially gave it a boo earlier was because I just wasn't in a wrestling watching mood yesterday. So, But in hindsight, like, I love Naomi winning. I thought Becky versus Lyra?
There you go. No, you had it the first time. Yeah.
I thought that match was awesome. You know, I wasn't a huge fan of the men's Money in the Bank, but again, it's this card has never been one of my favorite cards anyways. But again, overall, I thought this was it was a fun card. Again, yesterday I just wasn't in the mood for it.
All right, Matthew Smith, great listener from Mount Ontario, says yay for combining alcohol with ladders.
Okay, Alan Chambers gave it a mild yay, which to me, that's a boo. Sorry, Alan. Some great moments, but none of the matches really stood out.
Yeah, again, if you give it a butt. John Persky says, yay for Worlds Collide. Great show, very unformulaic, which, and much love for Mr. Iguana. Okay. Well, we were asking for Money in the Bank, but that's okay. You know what? I got to give you that. Mr. Iguana is my new favorite thing.
Yes, you actually, you posted about that as it happened. So
yeah, that guy was great. And then Craig Usher says, yay, 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 the opening women's ladder. Oh, he's got a whole card review here. If you want to read the whole thing, head to the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page here.
Yes, but for those of you that give a half yay, half boo, if you're going to give a yay, read that post. That's how you give a yay.
That's a lot of yays. Although you're still wrong about it being a work. I'll go ahead and say it right now. Craig is commenting on everybody's post right now saying it was a work. It was a work. It was not a friggin' work. And if you think about it, here's why it wasn't work. I talked about it with Dave earlier. I'm going to say it again. You did not screw with people's employment to that degree. You don't work the locker room to that degree. You don't work the fans to that degree. This was a re-signing. And if you need proof, the fact that dude is coming back as Ron Killings, he had him over a barrel. He's like, not only do I want to come back, but I think I would like to go by this name now. And I think we should do something different and give me whatever I want because you guys are going to look terrible if you don't. So,
like, and again, I'm glad he's back, but I'm going to reiterate whether or not it was a work. And I honestly didn't think it was. Like, I thought it was reality. But even if it was or wasn't a work, A, I'm happy he's back, and B, I'm just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, that's just it. Well, you know what? There you go. Yay, boo. Some of your feedback, always appreciated here on McGuire on Wrestling and the Celebrate Wrestling page. You wanted to say something, or are you taking a drink?
I was going to take a drink.
It's the alcohol and ladders. All right, Joe Aguinaldo joining us for Yay Boo with your Money in the Bank feedback. If you missed any of the show and you're listening on the radio, head to the podcast feed. Make sure you subscribe as well. This past Friday, posted the entire interview with the zombie killer Mentolo in our independent spotlight. You enjoyed that one?
That was excellent, dude. Excellent.
Pretty cool story, eh? Pretty cool story.
Very much, yeah, for sure.
And you heard the clip himself, Kenny Omega, saying that Mentolo was one of the guys that trained him, and if not the guy that trained him. So to get his start, and things turned out all right for that guy. But you can check out that podcast, the Alternate Commentary Table, Legends and Champions with Andy Evans, and one day We've Seen a Movie will return. Fear is coming. Emelina will debut.
Oh my God.
And We've Seen a Movie will someday make it back to this podcast feed, but more independent spotlights coming up in the next couple weeks as well. We're going to meet a guy out of Edmonton named Levi Knight, and we're also going to meet a lady out of one of the Cree Nations here. Has a remarkable story that transcends anything to do with pro wrestling, but wrestling is getting her through a part of life right now. She goes by the Matriarch. And I guarantee when this one comes up in the next couple weeks, you won't want to miss it. But Joe, this puts a cap on another edition of McGuire on Wrestling. Thank you, my friend.
Yay!
Well, there clearly wasn't enough alcohol in that drink. All right, until next time. Thanks for listening. Let us do what we do. Play safe, drive safe. See ya.
McGuire on Wrestling. Online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.